But this is just like a reference book for you to have. It's a little booklet on all the aspects of holy worship. It's even got, a little bit of basics on policy worship there, so you can keep that as a resource. Right? Okay. So we have some water over here. It's quite warm today, isn't it? So we'll try to keep the windows open. Depends on the noise. We might have to close them. Okay, so we've got 2 days. Welcome. You haven't turned on, I saw it. Okay, so today we're hoping to get through these. We're going to these subjects. We're giving a definition and meaning of worship. We're good to understand the basic definition of what worship is. What is deity worship? So we'll be covering that. And then we're going to speak about inviting the Lord into your home. Some of the things to perhaps decide, and some of the things to be aware of, some of the details that go behind that. And then we're going to look, because we'll be discussing offering Boga and offering Arti. So this time there's rituals involved in that. So we're discussing some of the importance of the rituals that go behind the worship. And then we hope to cover the Boga offering today. We're just going to speak about the principles that go behind offering Boga to the Lord. We won't actually be offering Boga, but we're sort of discussing some of the principles that go behind it, For instance, what causes the Lord to accept an offering or not, And then we hopefully by 4 o'clock we're going to do the last thing, the Arti and skills. So hopefully we'll be showing you an Arti, showing you how to do Arti, and show you some of the important things to understand and learn in that. So. And then next week, same time, same place, same. So next week, then we'll be looking more at home standards, In this lesson, we'll be describing who you might worship. In next week's lesson, we'll be describing what that worship might entail. How many Boga offerings, how many artis, dressing the Lord or not. So we'll be looking at some of those details. And then we're going to little look at cleanliness at home, because if the Lord's in your home, there's certain standards. It's good to be there. So we look at that. There's some points on that in your little handbook that we gave out. And we'll be looking at waking and resting the deities. And then bathing and dressing. So next week we hope to show you bathing Deity, to actually take you through that. So we have Deity here. So we'll show you how to bathe the Lord and aspects of dressing as well. That will happen next week. And if you've got any, normally there's quite a few questions when it comes to home worship. So please feel free to ask questions. Some of the questions you might ask will be more relevant to other classes. So I might part the questions, but please feel free, If you see if we're speaking about something and you have a question that's relevant to the point, definitely bring it up, So, and I will try to leave time for questions as well, Everyone's happy with that so far? Yeah? Okay. So, first, let's just look at the title. What does it mean? If we want to define the terms, deity worship. It may sound too easy, but what do we mean by deity worship? So anyone could give some definitions of deity that you've heard of for you. What's the definition of deity? a deity? If someone was to ask you, what is a deity? What would you say? How would you explain it?
Energy is in that.
The Lord's energy is in that form. Okay. Perhaps you could get a flip chart expert person with it. The Lord's energy is in that form. On the back of it. Is that correct? Is that? The Lord is the deity. It's not inside the deity. The Lord's energy is in it. Well, I think you're saying that.
Yes, yeah.
You're saying that. The Lord's, I put that, the Lord's present. Can you say the present? The Lord's present in the deity. That's better, isn't it?
Yes,
Like
present.
energy, the Lord is present. In other words, the deity, the Lord is present there. Hare Krishna, welcome. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. No problem. I bet if I start asking everyone's name who comes late, we'll take up a lot of time. Anyway, what's your good name, Mother? Bhakti, okay, I'll try and remember most names. Bhakti, that's an easy one. So the Lord's present in deity. Any other definitions? If someone was to ask you, what's deity? What's the deity? I give you the some help here. Here's the this is dictionary definition, which you'll find. God or goddess. Sometimes it's looking at divine character or nature. Divinity. The state or rank of a god, the king, attain the deity after his death. A person or thing revered as supremely powerful. The deity God. Yeah. So, do we agree with any of these? Which ones do we agree with? First one. A god or goddess. Yeah. Something, yeah. Supreme Lord. Divine on nature. Perhaps not. Divinity, a person or thing revered as supremely powerful or beneficial. Beneficium. Yeah. So this is a general definition of a deity. So then, so deity worship then. So worship then. How if someone was to ask you what is worship? How would you? Praying, is it? Serving. You can put that. Worship.
Connection.
Praying, connecting. Yeah, it is good. So here's a dictionary definition. A magistrate is often worshipful person, the person sitting on the bench. Adoration, devotion, or to be full of adoration and devotion. Attend public worship, to feel adoring reverence and regard for. To render religious or to feel adoring reverence or regard for. And excuse me. So, 1, 2, this one. Keep it there. Okay. Okay. So then, perhaps we can just. Can anyone let's just try and come up with what is deity worship there? We describe deity, have some ideas what is a deity, and worship. So we just come up with a little succinct statement, what is deity worship? Serving the Lord in His Murti form. Yeah. Yoga. That's nothing. Serving the Lord in deity form. Yeah. Yeah. Any other definitions we could give of deity worship? We've given a dictionary definition of both words. You have your own understanding from our culture. Give a little, someone's asked you what is deity worship. He's asked you what is deity, what is worship. So then, what is deity worship? The definition. This might have covered everything, but to give reverence to the Lord. Yeah. Okay, I'll give perhaps reverence and respect. Now here's next I give you this is a definition given in the Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami. And this is the definition that he gives there. So Archana is defined as offering of articles of worship, upacharas, with mantra after having performed pavanga karmas such as bhuta, siddhi and nyasas. Okay? How do we feel about that? Huh? Does it make deity worship sound attractive or approachable?
It's complicated.
Complicated.
Sounds only like brahmanas and
Well, that's the definition that Rupa Goswami gives, and I'll just read from here. Pavanga Bhuta Siddhi. Anyone knows what Bhuta Siddhi is?
Purification of the self.
Purification of the self, Bhuta Siddhi. So Bhuta Siddhi is a procedure of mantras that help to revive our spiritual constitutional position. Like before we do deity worship on the altar, then we will say mantras to remind us that we're the eternal servant of Krishna. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism is quite simple. In other sampradayas it can become quite elaborate, where they have mantras for dismantling each part of their material body and another mantra for building a spiritual body. Very complex. And pavanga karma means all the preliminary activities that you do before you actually worship the Lord. Before in elaborate deity worship, before you do the worship of the Lord, then you worship the Lord's associates. Taking the form of the bell, the conch, then you purify the area, then you invoke the Lord the Yatra. That's known as the activities that we do before we do the worship. Nyasas, and you have to read this one. Nyasas is the placement of mantra on different parts of the body to spiritualize the body. Now, sannyas is a ritual for purifying the limbs of the body. It involves touching the various parts of the body while chanting mantras. Placing sounds of mantras on various parts of the body. There are two types of nyasas. One is anganyas for the limbs of the body, and one also nyas for establishing ourselves as the servant of the Lord. I guess so. Again, so does it make it? Is it very attractive then, or approachable? Perhaps not. No? It's definition. Okay, so we finished the seminar here. It's all too complicated. Yes, sir. That's not exactly the nyasa spoken of there. No, it's different. Yeah, but don't worry about this because I'm just bringing up a point how actually it's not so complicated as that. The definition Prabhupada gives us a very simple definition. This is the definition of the goal of deity worship, at home or in the temple. It's the idea. It means the Prabhupada said this in Paris. Deity worship means to fix up our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. That's the whole point of worshipping the deity. So we're speaking about home worship. So it's there to assist us to remember the Lord. Savai Mana Krishna Pada Vindamo. So today's class, today and next week, we're going to be helping you to actually do that. How you can take up worship at home in such a way that you can think of Krishna more. That's going to make Krishna more the center of your home. You'll be more conscious of Krishna. So you'll be more focused on his lotus feet. That is the actual goal. And so what I'm going to go through here, and we'll look at the importance and reverence of deity worship. Let's see. What I want you to do, if you can, I want you to have some reflection here. Go deep in your heart. Just go deep, and I'll try and ask yourself this question. Why do we practice Krishna consciousness? Don't go too deep. Why do we practice Krishna consciousness? Why do we do it? Why do we engage in devotion? So we can write some of these points. It looks like you have some. Become closer to Krishna, yes? That's correct. That's why we practice Krishna consciousness. Become closer to Krishna. Something else?
We want Krishna to be part of our lives.
We want Krishna to be part of our lives. Yeah.
Remember Krishna.
And
Sorry.
never forget him.
Never forget.
Always remember Krishna. Yes, what was it?
So, it's what would please him.
To understand
By
it.
serving him, you're pleasing him as well. You're doing
Yeah,
things that
so-
he wants.
So we're practicing Krishna consciousness to please Krishna. To come closer to Krishna, so that Krishna is part of our lives, to remember him and to please him. And let's have a couple more. I could say to
We did it to repair like our broken relationship with him because we left him, so then by practicing it,
by practicing it, we can establish our relationship with Krishna. We re-establish very kind of say advanced Krishna conscious answers here. Another answers could be to get relief. To get relief from the intensity of the material world. Yeah? Get relief from the intensity of it. To take shelter, no? Krishna, yeah? Yeah. Right, next point we asked then is how are we going to achieve that? How are we going to come closer to Krishna? How is Krishna going to be part of our lives? How are we going to always remember him? Chanting. We probably might run out of paper, but slowly. Only got. Chanting, yeah, chanting.
Reading Prabhupada's book.
Chanting, reading Prabhupada's books, worshipping the Lord in the temple, yeah, worship the Lord.
Talking about him amongst the devotees.
Talking, hearing, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, speaking about Krishna. Yeah.
Spreading the word.
Spreading the word, yeah. Preaching his message. Yeah. Okay, and so someone mentioned deity worship a little bit. Matthew mentioned there, but so what's the relevance of deity worship in a devotional service? I mean, what's the yuga dhan for the age? Harinam Sankirtan. So, is it relevant? Doing the thing as well, quote and read here. Do we need it? Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam kalo nasti nasti anigata. Do we actually need to engage in deity worship? Is it actually essential? it is. We do need it. Good. So what is the relevance? Perhaps another way to, what's the relevance? How is it of relevance to our devotional service?
It's just an additional facet which allows us to identify Krishna and focus on Krishna. Whereas, if we're just chanting away without having that deity form, we don't really have that connection.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Anything else? I'll just read one quote here. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6.3.25, Canto 6. Especially in the age of Kali, Sankirtan alone is sufficient. Okay? Sufficient. If the members of our temples in different parts of the world simply continue Sankirtan before the deity, especially before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they will remain perfect. There is no need of any other performances. Nevertheless, to keep oneself clean in habit and mind, deity worship and other regulative principles are required. Srila Jiva Goswami says that although Sankirtan is sufficient for the perfection of life, the archana or worship of the deity in the temple must continue in order that the devotees may stay clean and pure. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore recommended that one follow the process simultaneously, both processes simultaneously. We strictly follow this principle while performing deity worship and Sankirtan along parallel lines. This we should continue. Okay? So the process of chanting is known as Bhagavat Vidhi. The process of deity worship is known as Pancharatrika Vidhi. And they're described like two rails of a track. Yeah? So the principal process is chanting, but we're not all Haridas Thakur. Yeah? Haridas Thakur, he didn't have any deities. His deity was chanting the holy name of the Lord. Yeah? But he's not. We shouldn't try to imitate him. And Prabhupada says, many times he quotes in that regard, we shouldn't artificially try to imitate Haridas Thakur. Yeah? Because so deity worship helps to create an atmosphere for us to be able to chant the holy name. Yeah? Helps to keep us purified. Helps to keep us regulated. There's different cleanliness. Helps to keep us in a mode of goodness. Yeah? So in that, it's very relevant to us. Yeah? This regulated worship of the deity within a temple or at home. Yeah? Any comments about that? Yeah? So it does play a very important point in devotional service, and we see that Srila Prabhupada himself, from the very beginning of the establishment of Krishna consciousness, the first deities that Prabhupada installed was Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. That was in 1967 in San Francisco. Yeah. So from the very beginning, Srila Prabhupada established deity worship. Now the worship was quite simple. Prabhupada just instructed them to come before the deity and wave the candles. That was it. And anything which they brought, they should first offer to the deity. So therefore, any new flare jeans or whatever, they offer it to the deity first. You know? So it's very simple. But after some time, Prabhupada established some principles of worship and standards of worship. But throughout Prabhupada's preaching, he spent a lot of, he installed many deities. Yeah? He installed deities here, London Shore, in Los Angeles, all over the world. Yeah? But Prabhupada saw the importance of it. Yeah? In the beginning, Prabhupada just instructed devotees to chant 64 rounds a day. Yeah? Prabhupada was experimenting. Yeah? So he asked them to chant 64 rounds a day. As we know the story, they came to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada, we can't do that. We tried. Then he said 32 rounds, then 16 rounds. And then seeing the persons he was preaching to and persons who were coming, then actually he was, the Jagannath deities came to him, Malati, wasn't it? she bought a deity, a Jagannath that she obtained from one shop. She stole it from one shop. That's the inside story. That's not in the Leela written. She stole it. And when Prabhupada saw Jagannath, he was very ecstatic. And he paid his obeisances and he asked, "Where'd you get these from? Is there any more there?" So she brought back the white one and the yellow one, which was Relevance and Subhadra. So then Prabhupada very much encouraged them, and he had a simple installation ceremony. So it plays a very integral part in our development of our devotional service. And all great acharyas, they all have a specific deity. Or they have what's known as the Ishtadev. Yeah? Rupa Goswami's Ishtadev is
Radha Govinda.
Radha Govinda. Jiva Goswami's
Radha
Radha. Scholar here. Prabhupada's Ishtadev is somewhat argue with that. Yeah, and also in a Srimad Bhagavatam, there's one quote Prabhupada says that all bona fide or all advanced devotees or bona fide devotees, they all take shelter of the temple. Or they all take shelter of a particular form of the Lord. We are all of our acharyas. Yeah? Haridas Thakur is quite an example because he just was chanting. Yeah? Right, so it plays a very important plays a very important role. So then, let's just look at then what are the benefits of deity worship? Let's go through some. Perhaps if you just turn to your next door neighbour or someone nearest to you, just discuss together what are some of the benefits of deity worship. Yeah? I'll give you just 5 minutes for that. You know? You can group together through there. You can. Someone can write it down as well. Write down what you come up with, and then we're.
Oh yeah.
We try and keep to Of course, yeah, that's what you can
Okay, that's it. Hare Krishna. So what you're going to help me to do is you're going to help me to fill in the rest of this slide, okay? So for the next time I give this seminar, it will be based on what you come up with here. Okay, so I'm just going to... so I'm coming off here and don't worry about that. So, what are some of the benefits of deity worship? Let's start from front here. What did you come up with?
So you have 8 points, so it gives...
8 points, well I have to take a couple at least there. Go on.
I'll give you 3.
3, give 3, yeah.
So you said like helps you to remember him, remember Krishna.
Helps us to remember Krishna, yeah? Yeah. Go on.
And then you spoke about like putting Krishna in the center and not like ourselves.
So, putting Krishna in the center of our lives, yeah? And one more?
And so through during the deity worship, Prabhu was saying like it puts him into like a right kind of mood or consciousness for the rest of the day.
Throughout the day. So establishes how can we say it? Establishes it's a good way to start the day. It's
helps us stay focused and balanced.
Huh?
Helps us stay focused.
Helps us stay focused for the day. Yeah.
Through the day.
Helps us to be balanced throughout the day with Buddha, yeah? Be balanced in the day. So perhaps this next...
Similar, engages our senses towards...
Yes, engages our senses.
Establishes mode of goodness.
So very practical, yeah?
Yes.
Helps us to come to the mode of goodness, yeah? And perhaps one more?
Keeps us regulated.
Keeps us regulated, yes. This is what I'm looking for as well, these more practical things. How can it... The benefits of the worship helps to keep us regulated. Yeah? How does it do that?
Knowing that we have to get up at a certain time.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Eating and...
Yeah, we've got to get up at a certain time. The deities need to be fed. We need to wake up the deities, yeah? As though we discussed that home worship, there is some flexibility there. It's not like the temple, which is very kingly worship. In the home, there is some flexibility there, but as much as possible, it's good to be regulated. That helps life in general, you know? Okay, thank you. And perhaps at the back, you had to count some points, 1 or 2 or 3.
You mentioned that you can't compromise. It's pretty much what...
Yeah, you can't compromise. It helps to keep it regulated. Yeah, you can't. Oh, I can't be bothered today. Let me do this. You know, they haven't been dressed for 1 month. It's too much hassle. No. So what was that again? You said helps us to. The word you used was. You can't compromise.
Compromise.
Yeah, helps us keep us I just put in brackets. Can't compromise. Well, the spelling's going to be the compromise. How do you spell compromise? I-S-E. S-E. I-S-E-S. Can't compromise. Okay, that's and perhaps the front here, if you can.
You really, it's a practical way to understand that Krishna is a person.
Practical helps us to understand Krishna is not impersonal. He's a person. Yeah. Very much so. That's one of the fundamental things to learn in deity worship. The Lord is actually a person, yeah? As opposed to worshipping a Brahman or uncharacterized form. The Lord is a person, yeah? So,
Me?
however,
Is the association of Krishna as well? Spending time?
you get Krishna's association, yeah? It's very beneficial, no? Krishna's association, yeah? Okay, at the back you have. Give us.
It helps you develop a close personal relationship with him.
Yeah, similar
Not
to
just on a level of kind of understanding that we are the eternal servants of the Lord, but also kind of allowing us to, he kind of allows himself to be in a position where we can closely serve him.
Yeah, very nice. So, how can we put that? If I'm going to put this on the slide, what could I say? Helps.
Feel the responsibility towards him as a
Yeah, as you're saying, there's no compromise, but there's responsibility.
someone you come home to, and
Someone whom we come home to.
you come home to him, a person.
Yeah. How could you summarize that?
Personal relationship.
We can
Establishing
a closer, a very
intimate,
very intimate.
relationship.
Yeah, it helps us to develop an intimate relationship to Krishna. Yeah. To develop intimate relationship. Anything else that someone's dying to add to this list? Yes.
It just helps us progress spiritually as well.
Helps us to advance. Yeah, it helps us to advance in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Okay, this is what we came up with. Okay, that's part of the slide for the next 10 years. I'll be teaching this small. You can see it though. Yeah, should have made it a bit bigger. Yeah, there's so many benefits to be had. If you read in the, there's a handbook printed by the Deity Worship Ministry a number of years ago, which they're in the process of printing a new one. It's called the Pancharacha of the Deep. And at the back there, in the supplement, everyone's got a copy of those books, orange books. In the back, in the supplement of that, it's on the Prabhupada Folio, if you have that on your computer. The Folio is a program that has all the Prabhupada's books. It's got handbooks and references books in there as well. It quotes from in the 11th canto, Krishna speaks about deity worship. And then there's the long list of benefits. And I've got a whole PowerPoint on that called Archana Fao, the fruits of worship. If you won't have time to go into now, there's so many benefits that come. Yeah? Yeah. So, yeah, very good. So, the identity. So, what are some of the misconceptions? What are some of the misconceptions that we heard of what is a deity, and what is not a deity? So there's quite a few out there.
A statue.
Misconception, just a statue.
Represents God.
Yeah, it represents God. It's just a statue. Yeah?
Idol worship.
The idol worship. Something else, somewhat of a misconception.
A means to an end, so it's not actually.
It leads to an end.
It's a means to an end. It's not a real thing.
It's a means to realize you are God. Yeah? So how would you say? How would you say if someone has a misconception that it's a statue? How would you might have friends at work, you might have at school or college. Sometimes they explain these things to them to help people to understand. Someone says, "Oh, you're just worshiping a statue." What would you explain more? How do you explain to someone who has that misconception? So,
His form was described 5,000 years ago in the Vedic scriptures.
yeah, very good point. Its form is not. Therefore, you can also say that we are also not into idol worship. We also do not worship idols or statues. We worship bona fide forms of the Lord, authorized forms of the Lord. There's one nice, in one of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's books of Jaivi Dharma, he introduces this character, he introduces a discussion of some Muslims who are asking the Vaishnavas these type of questions. and Bhaktivinoda Tagore explains this point that yes, we also do not believe in idol worship. Then he explains the authenticity of the deity. Yeah. So how else? That's one direction to go in when you're trying to explain the deity. So this might be at home. You might have guests, friends from work come at home, and you've got some talking to do because you've got an altar there. How do you describe it?
Perhaps you can explain how you have progressed and how you have become more regulated, disciplined, and by being the example, you probably can see that a lot of changes has happened over time when you're
so if you live in a shared house or something and you share with others who are not following the same process, and you're worshipping, then you feel if you find life is becoming much more sattvic, much more nourished
changes more quicker
internally. Yeah.
And you're more happier with yourself.
Yeah, more happy. You're not getting angry like you used to. You're becoming a more wholesome person. You know? But in one sense, that's like the benefits of it. But some more, if you just how to explain to someone with an atheistic disposition, how to.
You could just illustrate it. I mean, if you look at. I mean, obviously you've got the idol there, you've got the deity there. You say, look, I've got a piece of paper here, and I've got a £20 note here. So this is just an ordinary piece of paper. This is actually something which is of value. It's maybe illustrated in that form.
Yeah, very good point. That reminds me of how Prabhupada would sometimes explain. He said it's like a post box. There's a nice little film, a little clip video we see of Prabhupada is on a morning walk in Australia. And he's speaking on this point. He said it's just like it's a bona fide form of the Lord. It's an Archa Murti. It's the Archa Vigraha. There's different incarnations of the Lord. One of those incarnations is the Archa Murti. But it's just like if you put your letter in any old box, Prabhupada said in 10,000 years it's not going to get to its destination. However, it's in a bona fide post box. Registered was a very nice example you gave. It's a bona fide piece of paper. Well, it depends what country you're in, no? It might be worthless, that bit of paper. But if the comedy is something stable, it has some meaning. Yeah? So the Archamurti, or this, what you see as a statue, so it's actually an incarnation of the Lord. Established according to strict principles, especially within a temple. Yeah? And there's this quote here from, I think this is from Prabhupada, would often quote this in his books, so I'll read from here. One who thinks the deity in a temple or at home, I put that there, the brackets again. Or at home to be made of wood or stone, who thinks the spiritual master is an ordinary man, who thinks the Vaishnava in the Achyuta Gotra, that should be an R there, Gotra, to belong to a certain caste or creed, or who thinks of Charanamrita or Ganges water, its ordinary water, is taken to be a resident of hell. Yeah? Quite a strong quote there. One who thinks the deity in temple to be made of wood or stone. Yeah? So it's good for us to have faith in the identity of the deity, and also to be able to explain that to others as well. So we're all devotees here. I'm sure would anyone like to share some experiences which you think you can share? It might be too. Something that for you the deity is present, or the Lord is fully there in the deity. I mean, every day we have deity meetings, every day devotees are coming for darshan. What is it that convinces you that the Lord is present? I mean, why don't at 7 o'clock we all think this is King George III in Soho Square? Why don't we stand before King George? Why are we coming to this statue here rather than King George? What is it that happens for you to make you keep coming? Someone can share something? Yes.
Once I travelled with my friend from Mongolarity, she doesn't usually go all the time, and I think 7 o'clock greeting, she noticed that Krishna was wearing her bracelets that she bought him.
Okay.
And I just thought that's so personal and
Okay,
it just
great.
makes you feel
Yeah.
so welcome.
Yeah. So she must have felt some reciprocation
Yeah.
from the Lord. The Lord the Lord was accepting those gifts. So he felt something tangible, some tangible connection. Anyone else like to share some little gems, just little gems?
We had a couple of months ago we had a sangha at our house,
Mm.
and a lot of buses stopped in front of our house. So that morning I said, "Oh, Krishna, just for once, can you just stop buses coming while we've got the sangha going on?" And it's just something while I was preparing prasad and while I was saying that, and then suddenly about 6-7 o'clock, my daughter goes and she says, "Mom, further down, like literally on the main road, on the Hertford Road, there's been a fire, so all traffic has stopped. So there's no buses, there's no buses coming. There's no buses coming through." And then for the whole period of the sangha, from like 7 to 10, there was no buses. Buses only started coming past again once sangha was done.
So just see, by your desire, you caused the fire.
I didn't need to put fire. I just said stop the buses.
Yeah, these things happen. The deity is a person. He hears. He's there, and also he's in the heart. So he hears our prayers. And he hears our. He doesn't always fulfill all our desires, because some of them might not be favourable for our spiritual life. But he's definitely present. Something else. Someone else could share.
The school one. When she had to go to school after Janmashtami. And I was in the barn when we give the donation.
You have to say his
Oh, there's so after Janmashtami, my younger daughter, she had school the next day, and we were going to be at the temple, and she really didn't want to miss school, so it was going to be obviously a...
She didn't want to miss school?
No, she didn't want to miss school. So we're going to stay at the temple till like 12:01.
Yeah.
And then obviously go home by 2, and then she didn't want to miss school for the next day. So we were in the barn, and he was giving the donation, and I just in the barn thinking, oh no, it's just in the barn at the manor.
The barn?
Yeah, the barn and the manor, and we just started to say, "Oh, I wish school's closed for some reason tomorrow, whatever." And then about 10-15 minutes later, we got a text saying school's actually school's actually closed tomorrow. During yeah, there was a flood in the school, so it was actually.
So you started a fire.
I just wish for things and
it was what you wish for, But yeah, these are some, it's experience, I'm sure when we come each daily greeting is right, because I do daily greetings, and I'm there, and sometimes I look at devotees, there's a conversation going on. For many devotees, for some they're not as well. It's not there, somewhere else. But some devotees, when we're Krishna there, there's an exchange going on. Sometimes it can be quite profound to see devotees. I've seen many devotees looking at these tears coming in their eyes. It was very much present. And there's many stories in our tradition as well. There's one story you may have heard. Raghunath Maharaj often tells it of Raghunanda Thakur. Raghunanda. Now he was his father. I got to just get his father's name. Mukunda. Yeah. They've been worshipping deities for generations in their family. They had Radha Krishna deities for generations, so for a long time. So his son always used to watch his father do the worship. Raghunanda. Raghunanda used to watch his father do the worship. And his father then got called away on business, So there was no one else in the family present at that time, apart from his son, who was very small, but old enough to do tasks and things like that. So he didn't want the deity obviously to go without his boga offering, So he asked his son to offer the boga. So his son, he agreed to do it. And the son was kind of innocent, and so he offered the deity. The boga was there, and he brought the boga out and he put it in front of the deity. The deity's name is Radha Gopinath. It's actually Gopinath. A deity called Gopinath. He walked there, I think we know the stories, he walked there and he was ringing the bell and he was said, please accept, please take prashadam. Nothing happened. Deity was there, Bhoga was there. So as far as he's concerned, the Lord wasn't eating. So he insisted with such purity and intensity that he was, no, you have to eat, my father, you have to take your eating. Why are you not eating? So then the deity did eat. The deity then started eating and he ate all the offering. So then his father came back. His father's name again is? Mukunda came back. And of course he wants Mahabhashad. He's asking, did you do the offering? They said, yes, okay, so there must be some Mahabhashad. He said, no. He ate the whole thing. So he was a bit incredulous about that. He didn't quite believe it, or perhaps he was convinced that his son was telling lies, that he's eaten it all, and he's saying the deity is eating it. So then the next day he did the same thing. He asked his son again to offer the bhoga to the Lord. And but then he made out he was going travelling, but then he didn't. And he stayed and he watched. And he went through the whole process again. He was demanding the deity to eat, perhaps with tears in his eyes, imploring him to eat. Please. And then he saw the deity started to eat. Then he opened the curtain and he came out. Then the deity now was worshipped.
He froze, the deity just
stopped.
The
deity stopped in that position. So you can take darshan of that deity now. He's in, I don't know what this form he is, but he's taking prashad. And there's many such stories. There's another. Let's see. There's I read this story here as well. This is from. It doesn't say the source actually, but it's from an account of, I forget the name, it's one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. He described in one book, I forget the name of the book, it's, so shall I read? It's okay to read a little story? Yeah, okay. In the house of Thakur Pandit, it's not Haridas Thakur, but Lord Gauranga was dancing ecstatically, so the Lord's present personally, yeah? He's revolving his arms around and around, and Nishananda's there, and ecstatic kirtan. So Gauradas, he was crying, and incessantly crying. He was begging the Lord, please don't go, please don't leave. Just honour this one request. You stay here. So Gauradas in ecstatic kirtan. He's imploring him to stay. He's saying, if you go, then I will die. But don't trick me like you did the gopis by giving some philosophy that you can see me everywhere. I'm present everywhere. I don't want you. Don't try and trick me, anything like that. You two must stay here in such a way that I can see you. You two brothers just stay here with me. Thus, everyone in this area will become liberated. Again, I'm petitioning you. Don't leave. And then Lord Chaitanya replies, you should give up this idea. You can serve me in the deity form, for I am personally present in that form also. You should know this to be a fact. Just accept what I am telling you is the truth. So hearing this, Gauradas simply let out a deep sigh and continued to cry. It wasn't good enough for him. He don't want deities. He wants them to stay. Yeah? Again, the two brothers, they tried to console him. Lord Chaitanya and Gaur and Nitai tried to console him, but he refused to be pacified. So, seeing that he was extremely distraught, Mahaprabhu spoke to him very gently. All right, we'll stay with you. Know that in all certainty that we two brothers will stay in your house. So consoling him in this way, the two lords came before him in the company of two deities. So there was two deities. There was Gauritai deities, and there was Gauritai. Yeah? So there's four of them standing there. Yeah? So Thakur Pandit was astonished. So through tears continued to flow from his eyes, he was not out of sadness. So the Lord again spoke to him. Whichever two you choose, you can keep in your room. Yeah? Whichever two you can recognize as us will stay with you and depend on you to feed us. Know this to be the truth within your heart. Having heard Mahaprabhu speak these words, he immediately began to cook. He fed all 4 of them sumptuously, and then offered them nice clothes and garlanded them with garlands of lotus flowers. Then he offered pan and betel nuts for chewing and smeared sandal paste on their bodies. By serving them in various ways, he gradually regained his former composure and at the same time decided which 2 he would keep in his house. Due to his pure love, the 2 lords remained with him and asked him to feed them when they were hungry, while the other 2 went to Nilachala, went to Jagannath Puri. Guridas Pandit then served his 2 lords according to their whims and enjoyed many pastimes with them. Okay? So you get the idea what happened? They was not different from each other. Yeah? So he chose, there was no difference, you know? You know, there's other quite wonderful stories in our tradition, also other traditions, like the Lord's personal presence. So let's move on from this verse, shall we?
So can we hear some examples from you as well?
Oh, from me? I can share a couple of things other devotees have shared with me as well. I had one dream of Londonishwara one time, so where they was taking Bashar on the altar, but they was down on the floor like this, going like that, you know. They was down on their knees, you know. They was eating the Bashar like that, you know. And one, I think, Ram Shakti, one of our pujaris, she was wake up the deities, and sometimes she would wake up late. Supposed to wake up the deities, supposed to be on time. So one time in her dream, Radharani was wake up, and then all of a sudden she looked at her watch and looked, so Radharani actually came to wake her up, you know. I think it was Ram Shakti.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember you saying that you had a dream that Radharani was waking Ram Shakti up.
No. See, this is called Chinese whispering. No.
So you had a dream.
Yeah. Often, sometimes the Lord reveals himself in dreams, something like that. He works out dreams. One time I dreamt I was dressing the deities, and I was dressing Radharani, and one of my god brothers, Adi Guru actually, he came, and some of the curtains were open, and he was watching the dressing, you know? And he came, he said, no. He was saying, no, this is not right, you know? This is not right. And then Londonishwara said, no, everything is just right. So the whole atmosphere was really ecstatic, you know? So, and then daily, you know, we're taking darshan of the Lord's Children experience as well, that we see the Lord's in a specific mood, you know, a specific characteristic of. Sometimes devotees describe he looks very grave at us, you know. Means we're perhaps not chanting as good as we should be, or also reflect, you know. But without a doubt, for all devotees, we should have complete faith that the Lord is personally present in the form of the deity. I can't think that there's more, but don't come to mind for now. And it takes too long. You take an hour, half an hour of these stuff. Okay, so we've established what is deity worship. Okay, we went through that. What is deity worship? The importance and relevance of deity worship. Hopefully we're a little bit familiar with that. And the identity of the deity. But where does it come from? What is the authenticity of this? Is it bona fide or not? One day I find this question very interesting because I saw a clip on BBC News. Sometimes I get distracted on BBC News. See what's not going on in the world. But there was this one little film they did, 3 or 4 minute film of someone, this reporter who went over to Mexico to interview these persons who kidnap people. You know, there's kidnapping is a big thing in somewhere. Mexico or somewhere.
I think it was
Colombia, sorry. Anyway, the point of interest of it, you know, he risked his life. He went, he met these persons who kidnap people. They kill people and kidnap people. He's an adventurous reporter. The point of interest for me that caught my eye in the beginning is that they had all. He went to one place to get blessings that he wouldn't be killed, and the blessings the place he went to had all these deities of all previous gangsters who had been killed. And they're worshipped, and he went through this whole ritual, because we're discussing about ritual, he went through this whole ritual of him getting blessings from death, not to die. And these are statues of crude statues of ex-gang, and one of the parts of and it's getting into a bit ritual, but it's linked here. One of the parts he had to do was to light a cigarette and put it in the deity's mouth, stuff it in his mouth, and then he got blessings. So for us, that's complete nonsense. So some people will think what we're doing is the same. Yeah. For us, it's quite obvious. It's complete mental concoction, complete speculation. That's why, like in the, there's often Christians come with this quote, or they come with the quote, enough of these idols, enough of smashing. That's good. And I think Moses and Muhammad, that's one of the things that he did. He broke all the hundreds of deities there were in Mecca. Yeah, there was so much mental concoction. They were worshipping deities in the form of ducks and donkeys. So we're doing worship, and it dawned on me then when I was watching it, it's probably some people think we're doing the same type of thing. And the next day I was dressed in golden attire, and I was thinking, am I doing the right thing? I was kind of reflecting, have I been tricked, Someone had effect. But no, I soon came to my senses, and I don't know. But where does that process come from? Where does it come from? Someone asks you, did someone make it up along the line? What's it based on?
Krishna's words.
Huh?
Krishna's words.
Krishna's words. So that Krishna's words means, what's the word? Scripture. Sastra. Yeah. So where in our sastras does it describe about deity worship? Which? Srimad Bhagavatam specifically. That's in the 11th canto, chapter 25. If you look in the 11th canto, I should know, the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's instructions to Uddhava on the process of deity worship. And he doesn't go into so much great detail, he gives a summary, but still there's lots of details there. And again, in the handbook from the deity worship ministry, he gives elaborate purports on that section. So that's one place, Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah? We can be rest assured of the bona fideness of what we're doing. Somewhere else, Nectar of Devotion also describes. In the Vedas, in the beginning, the first 19 chapters, is mentioned about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And it gives an elaboration on, involves deity worship, how to actually practice bhakti, what you should do, what you practically do to do bhakti. And it's all centered around the deity. Yeah? Make garlands, wear the Maha garlands, circumambulate the deity, bow down to Tulsi, So there's a lot there. And also, so you've got Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion,
Narada
Pancharatra as well. That's specifically Pancharatrika. Pancharatrika means worship. Yeah? Pancharatrika. Bhagavad Vidhi and Pancharatrika. So it's mentioned there, Narada Pancharatra. And Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. There's a story of Shakshi Gopal. One knows that story. Beautiful story of Shakshi Gopal. So, so we stop for a little break in a few minutes. Let's say perhaps 11:30. It's all right. Yeah. So, but for now, let's. Okay, any questions at all? So we're convinced we're doing something going fine? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're making quite good pace. So now we're going to look at, this is lesson 2, so to speak. So we discussed the benefits. So if you get on the flip chart again. So let's just be more focused now on home worship. What's the need? Not the benefits as such. Let's try and not the benefits. What is the practical need? I don't know if I can try and express myself. But what's the practical need for worshipping the deity at home? I can think of something very practical. Prashadam. Yeah, you want to prashadam, do you? Perhaps we've already mentioned some of the points which you're thinking of, so we can feel free to even say things we've already mentioned.
Being regulated.
Being regulated, yeah, we'll come up with that, yeah. Cleanliness, yeah, it gives more importance to keep things clean because the Lord is present, you know. The Lord is present, you know.
Isn't it said that, especially for householders, having deity at home is very important because then you can practically see that he is the master of the house.
Yeah, he's the master of the house.
So practically kind of doing that.
Yeah, and as you're speaking, so you can put that down. He's the
master of the house.
He's the master.
Can it also inspire others in a household to also take up that way?
Yeah, inspire others.
Yeah.
Others in the household, yes. So offering food, focus as spiritual practice, sanctifies the home. Yes. If there's no temple nearby, you have a temple of your own home. If you can't go to a temple daily, yeah.
Teaching the next generation.
Teaching the children, yeah, very important. We have some quotes about children deity worship coming up as well. Yeah, in regards to the relationship between temple worship and home worship, generally in Los Angeles, the temple is situated in Watseka Avenue. Huh? And there was a phenomena that was happening there. The devotees were living in the adjacent houses to the temple, but then they was getting deities in their homes and then neglecting to come to the temple. You know? So this was brought to Prabhupada's attention. And then Prabhupada made a point, no, you should all come to the temple, There's no need to have deities at home if you live so close to the temple. If you come to the temple every day, then you should come, So, and that comes up later as well, that home worship shouldn't kind of stop us from going to the temple. We should still be very much connected to the temple, But at the same time, if we can't come to the temple every day, nice to have some worship at home. Yeah. So also it helps us develop spiritual qualities. We discussed that already. And we discussed that as well. It helps us to advance spiritually. So our atmosphere becomes more sanctified. Yeah? So, but still, there may be some objections. So again, objections to having deities at home, or what some reasons not to. Perhaps Salasu, is there any obstacles do you think? Any obstacles to having an altar at home? What obstacles do you think there might be? Yes.
Need you to leave the house.
Someone, yeah. We discuss them first, and then we'll answer them. Perhaps we'll just come up with them. So that's one obstacle. Someone else, others in the house are not vegetarians. Yeah, they're not vegetarians. You could sit down for a minute. You're breaking. Yeah, that's an obstacle. It can be an obstacle. You may be living in a shared house. And not everyone shares the same values as you. So it could be an obstacle, and we'll address that. Anything else? What other obstacle could there be?
space constraints. So what is that?
The
Space constraint, as in like, there's not enough space, so they don't
Space.
have
space too small. House is too small. My bedroom is too small. Can't have a look. That's small.
I was just going to say sometimes standards in terms of if you fall sick or
What's going to happen if I fall sick? What's going to happen if I'm sick? What about holiday?
yeah.
What about holiday? Take the deities with me, I believe. No?
That's what happened. Actually, our Gauri-like deities were passed on to us from someone who had cancer, and she couldn't look after the deities. So,
And even Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra came to us after they were traveling deities,
so
and
basically,
they were lost in the
Transit.
they're lost in the
lost all
bakery.
of them. So like,
So
we
they-
used to have them as our Sangha deities, and for some reason, Radha Rupa Devi Dasi left them in the bakery at the manor, and so they just disappeared for like about 4 or 5 years, and then
About a year, 2 years, they disappeared.
and then
And then they looked everywhere for them and they couldn't find them. And then one day she got a call from the bakery saying the deities have appeared in a totally different box. They found them on top of a shelf and they were all full of dust and everything. So she went to collect them and they were the same traveling deities. And then we at that point said that we wanted deities, and then they came to us and they've stayed. But they said that they well, everybody that comes so far to the house, they've said that they're very, very happy. And they're put, that's why they're staying put.
And so that's one, practically see persons get sick in their hand. That's one thing you should consider when you have, if you consider having deities at home, is like there's this saying you see on sometimes the back of cars. It's not the best quote to match, but it says a pet is for life. Some persons get all fired up over Christmas, you know, and you get a pet and it gets too much for them and they have it put down, you know. So deities for life. So you should think carefully. We discussed that, what deities they have, but just touching on it now. One time there was in Puri, there was a whole Sangha of devotees went to Mayapur, and they all come back with Gauri deities. And these are all students, you know, all young students, and like 3 years later, none of them had those Gauri deities. You know. So you should think carefully. You should think what is. I won't spend too much time on it now because we'll discuss that as well. But think carefully. You should think it out. You know, who's going to look after these deities when I go, when I die? You know, you should think of these things. But anyway, any objections? So that's one. We're elaborating on one objection. One holiday. That might be yes.
It might be really offensive to someone's beliefs.
It might be offensive to someone else who doesn't have faith.
Yeah, they may not understand, they may just see as idol worship.
Yeah.
They don't want to.
Yeah. Okay, so these are very good.
Sorry, you just mentioned holidays, and we actually forwarded this one to our Sangha group. We had.
Take them with you.
So
it reminds me, it reminds me very much. Seeing that photo reminds me very much. One time I was in an internal flight in India. I was on Air India. You know, you get the announcement, put the seat belts on, put the seat up, and like this, and nothing. And there's one lady. She had this box with deities in it, you know, and she couldn't put the seatbelt on. She wasn't. You know, she sat there, and the man came. Seatbelt, please. She said, "I got one." And he said, "Okay." It's only Indian that can happen.
Pretty scary.
But that was very scary. So she sat there, no seatbelt, nothing. Now let's look at some. I need to get rid of this clicker. It doesn't work. Excuse me, Kim. But so Krishna is. This is one objection. Right? Krishna is everywhere. So why do I need an altar? So how do you, if someone, so what could you say? Yeah, you're right. You don't need an altar. No, you're right.
But he's everywhere, but we have the eyes to see him everywhere, so we need specific.
One second, just find this.
Sorry, but the page I read from this book, is it the same?
No,
as
it's
the
different. Yeah,
or
just so
different?
for those who just come in,
What's it?
actually, let me just get the relevant. Yeah, for these handouts we have, these are kind of handy reference books for you to have.
Not same one.
It's not. We're not following this page by page. It's got some nice quotes in regards to home worship. Lots of quotes from Prabhupada, what he said about home worship as opposed to temple worship, with some details as well. Yeah? So this one. Krishna is everywhere. So why do I need an altar? So you see, he is also on your altar. So as we've already discussed, remembering him is much more natural when he's standing in front of you. It's much more personal. It's much more easy. Yeah, it's true that Krishna is everywhere, but he also has an individual existence. And I think we mentioned that in the beginning. This helps us to remember that he's actually a person. There's some persons, we heard the stories where some impersonators of Mayavadis, they go into, I heard the story, we're going to Krishna Balaram, and instead of taking darshan of Krishna Balaram, they face the post. You know, they're making a point. That's the same thing in their, so they get quickly thrown out of the temple. But the point is, Krishna is everywhere. Also, his impersonal manifestation comes from his personal form. Yeah. So Krishna's everywhere. So why do I need an altar? Because he's also. Yeah. So although Krishna is the cause of everything, he is also beyond everything material. Besides that, if you would only accept Krishna in his aspect of everything, how would you worship him? How do you worship the universal form? Very difficult. Yeah? Not impossible. Well, not impossible, but how can you address the universal form? So why do I need an altar? If I want to see Krishna, I can go to the temple. So good? What can you say to that?
It goes back to what we were saying before.
Which is?
We have Krishna at home, we have an altar, then the Prashad and the regulators, the thing, that's all.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
often
yeah.
can you go to the temple practically?
Yeah, how often goes to
once or twice a week.
Yeah, there's another example given here on the way to. It is natural that we want to be near those we love. And as an example, imagine a newlywed husband saying to his wife, "We can continue to live with our parents. If I want to see you, I can come over for a visit." Sound good? Worshipping Krishna at home can open new doors in our relationship with Krishna. It can help others in our household. You mentioned that by bringing them more directly in contact with Krishna. Krishna will always be there for you. Yeah? When you accept your offerings, you can chant before them. It's a place where you can focus your chanting. Yeah? If the temple is far away, it's not possible to go there every day. But hot water, Krishna is always there. Yeah? And it's good to have a clear centre of the home. What's the centre of most homes? Television. TV. Yeah. So it's good to move the TV out and put the deities there and whatever. Yeah. Another objection. This is here quite. Home worship will interfere with my attending the temple program. It's a reason for not having an altar at home. Do you agree with that? No, it doesn't have to. There's many different. We'll describe that this in the next week's class about the standards of worship we have at home. Yeah, it doesn't have to be very elaborate standard. Yeah? Here is simply put: home worship should not interfere with the temple program. So you may arrange it accordingly. You know, should not. You know? Any questions about that? There's a few pensive faces you can see there. So we have to deal with this. Huh?
You know, when there's festivals and things, and you go for Mangala, and yet you've got your deities at home, and most of the day you're at the temple.
Yeah.
Most of the day, even sometimes all day, and your pet deities are still maybe sleeping because you left so early in the morning. So that's, I think, I wanted a bit of.
Well, the first thing to consider is that the first thing we should think about before we have deities. Yeah. It might be more practical for us to have pictures, a picture altar, because there's no requirement of regulated worship. Once you have deities, then there is deity means you've got a deity. There should be some regulated worship, as regulated as possible within your household situation. Yeah? So you see, sometimes you see photos of festivals in Russia, where everyone brings their Gornitai with them, and there's the altar. There's about 50 or 100 sets of Gornitai and all there everywhere. So, but really, you don't want to interrupt the worship of the Lord as much as possible. So, if you're going to be spending all day at the temple, you should keep in mind, how can the Lord still be worshipped? So you might have to make some different devotees. What can devotees share some who have deities at home? What do you do on festival days?
Well, not so much festival days, but when we obviously go on holidays, we usually take our deities and drop them off to someone from our Sangha group who usually help us out. Obviously, festival days, we do have problems, sometimes coming back, like after Janmashtami at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
You just can't help that.
On worship, there's some flexibility.
And that's why I think,
George, I'm really glad you brought up that point, because that's what most of the devotees I know in our congregation, they take care of each other's deities. Holiday times or festival times. I mainly say holidays, for example, and they take care. The deities go to someone else's house and they're taken care of like that. Yeah. So in other words, it shouldn't interfere. In other words, what they're trying, don't make your home worship too elaborate. Keep it very simple. Unless you've retired, and you're not traveling so much, and it's different. So yes.
I was just going to ask, is it something which is considered bona fide, that your deities may be at home, but if you're traveling you can't carry them with you, that you take a photo and you're still continuing the same kind of worship?
I know the Srila mentions that, say if you have a baby, it's like having a baby, you take a photo of the baby, say, no, you got it, it's not. You got to think of that, the Lord's person. That's why you should, before you have an altar, you should think, think first, especially perhaps have pictures, and there's no requirement.
Some devotees put the deities to rest.
Yeah.
Going on holiday, there's no one else that is able to look after them.
It's not the best. It's not the best. So often there's compromised standards, Devotees don't like to do it. Often they put the deities to rest. So you should be, when you're establishing your worship, you should think things out, Think things out. It's not the best. Okay, devotees do it, but it's not the actual deities' best standard to do. You put them to sleep. Only the extreme last resort. It's not the best thing to do, especially if you've got regulated worship. But it's Manasa Puja. Some devotees do that. Manasa Puja, then they offer the worship every day within the mind. It's normally done by sannyasis who are traveling, and they do some worship. Then they may be on a plane or something, so then they do Manasa Puja. They do the whole puja within the mind.
So the deities are put to rest at home and then they do Manasa Puja?
Yeah, well the deities may be packed away, in a hold or whatever. They travel with deities, but they still do the worship. Manasa Puja. But the main point is that the deity is a person, so these things of taking photos of the deity worship, not the best putting the deities to sleep, you want to try and make other arrangements, That's the best thing to do is the worship goes on by someone else. That's why it's good, we've got a large congregation, what do they call it? We should be networking. Networking, and I'm going on holiday, and next year I'm going to India for 2 months, Can you perhaps look after my deities? Yeah, there's no more worship needed, they just come and they're present. And there may be, it's simple, just dressing perhaps. That's why, again, we're going into it more, but next week we describe about the standards that you establish. Do you dress once a day? Do you dress once a week? Do you dress on the Ekadashis only? These are things you want to think about. But let's go through some more let's stop here. So we're having a little break for 10 minutes. We'll come back at 11:45. Is that okay? Just 10 minutes, yeah?